Well, just when you think things couldn't get any worse with this little project, let's see who had faucet breaks off in old corroded pipe on their bingo card. So yesterday, I'm working on finishing up the wiring to this new circuit breaker box, and I just tapped this little spigot or outlet on the end of this pipe, and it just started spraying water, and eventually it just broke right off when I tried to remove it to put a new one in. So yeah, that's not good. Right now I'm without water, but I'm going to try and remove the remains of the inside of this spigot that's stuck inside the pipe. Got a few tricks to try. If not, looks like I'll be calling a plumber. Anyway, wish me luck. So every once in a while, my flag, due to the wind, would come loose from this little clip here at the bottom. It's like a little plastic triangle there, and one side's connected and the other is not. It kind of just floats there. And I used to have it so that the open side was in the eastern direction, the direction the wind is currently blowing, and it would come loose. And so I decided it might be better if I switched it around so that opening is actually on the western side, so it has much less chance of coming undone from the grommet coming out of that little clip there. So you can see there's an opening, and the wind could blow it out of there, but if it's facing to the west, there's much less chance, because predominantly the wind comes from west to east. So with that in mind, hang on while I climb down. Every time my flag would come loose, the grommet would come loose from that little clip, I'd have to come out here and I'd have to drag the big ladder all the way from the Quonset hut all the way up here to the top of the property, and that got old pretty fast. So I decided to just build myself a little permanent ladder right on the pole here, so that if it does come undone, I can just climb right up there, grab the flag, fix it, and put it back. No dragging of the ladder. So this is extremely helpful. And it was pretty easy to build. Just a bunch of 2x4s with a little wedge-shaped piece. Let's see up there on each side. And it works great. So, very helpful. Alrighty, let's have a look at the grapevines. They're all doing pretty well. Lots of leaves now. So I'm assuming that more leaves means faster growth. So I ought to see a much faster pace to the growth of the grapevines. And again, I'm just letting them grow wild this year to help get the root system established. And then next year I'll prune them back and then try to get them to follow the trellis wire at the top. So they're not even up there yet. So this one's still a little bit of a slacker, but doing better. This one's doing great and also doing great. And I'm also using these water emitters now to water the grapevines every day. seems to be working pretty well. And the sunflowers are looking a little better. Definitely a little bit more healthy, but it's kind of the garden of the misfit sunflowers. They're a little bit wonky, but getting better. I've got another batch of sunflowers I've planted, so I'll continue this line up to the end of here, so I get one full line of sunflowers in the garden. And the pumpkins are doing great. Let's take a look at them. These are the pumpkin plants. I'm gonna have a lot of pumpkins, I'll tell you that much. As long as they don't get munched on. Lots of pumpkins. So they're getting their second and third leaves. Looking good. Looking good. They even extend beyond the last post. And I'm starting to dig the holes for the end posts on these last 3 rows. I've got them all started, and I'm almost done painting the 10-footers. And here we have the watermelons. They're just really tiny right now. I did not have a very good germination rate from the watermelon seeds. That's a decent sized one. These were planted at the same time as the pumpkins were, believe it or not. Now, this is probably one of the better ones here. And then this is whole, is ready for an end post. It's pretty freaking deep there. Hard to see because of the sun. So. All right, and things are starting to get a little complicated with the watering system. So I replaced the 2-place manifold with a 3-place manifold. One goes to the vineyard, which splits in 2. The other one goes to a soaker hose for the sunflower, and the third one on the right here right now is just sort of a spray hose that I'm using to water the pumpkins and the watermelon. But I did just get the polyethylene tubing for these 2 here, these 2 end rows. And as soon as I get the posts in on the end, I can put the wire in, and then I can do the same thing that I did over here with the polyethylene tubing and the emitters. And that should make watering the pumpkins and the watermelon a lot easier. And this hose here, this soaker hose, I don't know. I've tried a couple of different soaker hoses. It's doing okay, but honestly, I think the pressure in my water system just isn't quite enough to get it to emit enough water here. So I'm having to water a little bit by hand just to help it out. I mean, it does wet the soil, and you can see it's kind of like sweating there, and there's definitely moisture there, but it's not a whole lot. I wish it was just a little bit more. So I leave it on pretty much all day just to keep the soil wet for the sunflowers. All right, well, let's go down here, show you the 10-foot 4x4s that I've got almost finished painting. And there's another flag that I just put up. Pretty cool flag. And then I also had some extra pumpkins here, so I just stuck them in the ground right next to the Starlink tower. And then this was the extra grapevine that came, so I decided just to put it there. Why not? It was just a tiny little one. It's actually grown quite a bit. So I may transplant it back up to the vineyard at some point because it's growing pretty well. All right, so over here, got these 10-foot 4x4s. I just need to do one more coat on this side and they're ready to go in the ground. And then these little pieces here, I'm going to put these underneath the PVC pipe on the post for the electric panel over here at the well. Let's take a look at that. So if you recall, we had the mini disaster not yesterday but the day before, where I hit the spigot right on the end here and it just cracked it off, and I had water spraying everywhere. The tank was shut off, so all it did really was empty the tank. After about 10 minutes it just whittled down to a little dripping. So I had to somehow remove the internal broken off part in that pipe right there, right where you got this piece of PVC capping it off. And so what I did was I used a file because I had access to it here, and within about 10 minutes of filing, I had already made it completely through one part of that internal ring. And then I moved 90 degrees, did another cut, and then I was able to pry out that quarter of the ring. And guess what? Instead of coming out, it actually it went in and down into this pipe here. So the only way to get that piece out was to cut this pipe and then fish it out from the end here. Fortunately, this pipe here, oops, what's this? All right, that was odd. My phone cut out on me because it said it was too hot, so it just shut down. So I went inside and stuck it in the freezer for 5 minutes. Now it seems to be fine again. So let's continue on here. This pipe, the one that the piece of brass fitting fell down into, that actually supplies water to some hose bibs that are about 150 yards that way, and I don't use them, at least not at the moment. So I left it just cut off. There's a valve here that shuts this whole line off, and you know, it'll be fine for now, because I'll tell you what I'm thinking of doing. And then to fix where the hose bib was, there's this hose bib here, and then there was a second one here that's the one that broke off, and I just capped it off with some Teflon tape and a piece of PVC pipe cap. That seems to be doing the trick. Now I noticed that a number of these valves are leaking a little bit. It's not severe. They were leaking prior to me doing anything, so they haven't really changed. But I'm going to have to, at some point, maybe in the next month or two, rearrange this whole manifold situation here. I'm going to rebuild this manifold so that all of these come out like this center one here. So this one here, it's supplying water to the house, and it's got this valve shut off here. I'm going to replace this knob with a ball valve that you can just crank, 90 degrees with a handle and shut it on and off. And then these other ones will also come straight out and also have ball valves on them. And then also over here, since I'm doing it, I'll have another one that comes out and comes straight out, so that everything will feed straight out, just like this center one coming straight off of the feed from the pressure tank. So it'll just make things a little easier to get to maintain. And I mean, obviously I will have to adjust where the connection is for this PVC pipe and this polyethylene pipe here. By the way, this is the one that's going to the vineyard and the garden. So that's what everything is doing. This one's going to the house, vineyard, and then these are the ones that are going out that way. This PVC pipe has a 10-2 wire in it for the well pump, and this is the old wire that used to be supplying power for the well pump. That's just a dead wire at the moment. So I'm going to probably dig it up a little further back and just, cap it off a little further back, just to get it out of the way. And as I mentioned before, that one over there, let's see if I can zoom in on it. I have no idea where that one's going. It's kind of just going that way. So I don't know of any other breaker panels or any other electrical outlets that are in that direction. Maybe one will be revealed when things get cleaned up over here, but at the moment it's just a dead wire. I've tested them all with a multimeter. None of them have power, so I think we're safe in that regard. And then over here with the new breaker box, I've got that sort of wrapped up. So got the new breaker in there, and then I've got a wire that comes down through this PVC pipe here, and it goes into a junction box. So the wire from the panel is coming up into here. That's the 10-2, and then I have another. This is just connecting, direct connection, white to white, black to black, ground to ground, up here, and then up into the breaker box. Now at the moment I've got this basically jury rigged. I've got to I have to put something behind this PVC pipe. So once I do that, then I can clean this up and put a real elbow here and glue this PVC pipe together so it's all sealed and nice and tight, airtight, watertight, that kind of thing. So, but at the moment it's working just fine. And then I cleaned this up a little bit. I put a Romex connector on this thing here. This is the solenoid type valve that shuts the pump on and off for the pressure. And then I probably have to do one over here as well. They just left it open like that, but I will remove these wires, put the Romex connector in there, and then I'll caulk up both sides just to seal this box, keep bugs and water and everything out of there. All right, and the pressure gauge is working, but it's just a little cloudy. I may try to clean up this plastic here with some headlight cleaner, and just so it's a little bit more readable. That does seem to work pretty well. I've used it on my headlights, and boy, it makes a big difference. Anyway, I think it'll probably work on this plastic as well. And that's a pressure relief valve there. So if it does get too high inside the tank, water will pop out the bottom there. All right, one thing I forgot was that my blueberry bushes also came the other day. So let's go take a quick look at them. I put them in the ground, and I was surprised that they actually have some little blueberries already on them. I thought they were going to be like the grapevines, is just nothing but a stick, but they're actually about 2 feet tall. So here are the blueberry bushes. You can see, let's see, yeah, there's some blueberries right there. So I may get a few blueberries this season later on, but next year I'll continue this line up with more blueberry bushes. And I think from this point here that way, I'm going to do other small bushes like Saskatoons, raspberries, and some other small berry bushes. instead of grapes. So this will be from here over just berry bushes. All right, so let's go down to the Quonset hut and just take a look at one thing I did down there. And I think that'll wrap it up for this week. Be right back. So I found this online. It was a hose holder, and I think it really fit well with the theme of the Quonset hut. So there it is. Kind of neat. It's only like $19, but it's got the round section on the top and it's got the star just like I have up there. So definitely fits in with the theme of the Quonset hut. Back this out. There you go. One more thing, I'm inside the Quonset hut now, and I had worked on this week was putting outlets along this northern facing wall of the Quonset hut. So I'm gonna come from here. This is where all the power comes in and gets distributed. Gonna come from here over to an outlet here. Then I'm gonna go up, and I've got these eye bolts into the bolts coming through the ceiling here, comes over here, and then we'll come down through these bolts to these outlets that I've mounted on the wall there, and then we'll come back up over. I got more eye bolts over to here, come down to the next one, and then back up and over. And so there'll be three outlets on this wall. One on that wall over there, and finally there'll be one over here, one outlet here, and then one final one at the end of the run right about here. So that's where the fans will plug into to bring in the fresh air from the outside. So I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outlets on that run from over here. So I have the cord for it. I just haven't gotten to it yet, so that'll be probably a job for next week. All right, talk to you later. That's really all I've done down here in the Quonset hut. It's been very helpful to me to have all this sealed up, and I can just go in and use the tools in there for some of the things that I'm working on, the saws, and have all my painting things that I need to get done in there. And yeah, I'm definitely enjoying having the Quonset hut at my disposal. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week, and we'll continue on next week. Talk to you later. Bye.